Psalm 127, verse 3 through 5. Children are a heritage from the Lord, offspring a reward from Him. Like arrows in the hands of a warrior are children born in one's youth. Blessed is the man whose quiver is full of them. They will not be put to shame when they contend with their opponents in court. The Bible tells us children are a reward from the Lord. I know from experience that one of the hardest things you'll do as a parent is to raise teenagers. My name is Mark Sturgeon. I was asked to share my experiences for today's session about raising teenagers. I have 4 adult children and 6 grandchildren, and I survived some of the roughest times of my life, and you will too. Let me share my experiences with you. Let me start out by saying, as a kid, I was always the one on the block playing with all the younger kids in the neighborhood. At that age, you're not thinking about getting married or the possibility of having children. But deep down, I knew I'd be a dad someday. But knowing I would be a dad and actually being one are 2 different things. Fast forward about 10 years to my early 20s, and I find myself getting married. My body was that of an adult, but emotionally I was still a kid. Right away we have kids. First a girl, then a boy. Life was good. My daughter grew up and was a very mature kid emotionally. Sometimes I thought she was raising me. My son, born a few years later, was going to be my buddy, my all-star. He was holding a baseball bat and hitting balls at 3 years old. Fast forward another 9 years. My wife at the time decided to leave the marriage. My daughter is 9, my son is 6, and I'm still emotionally about 16. We won't talk about how long it took to get over the divorce. I'm sure many of you have been in that situation, and you know it's not easy. We decided we would co-parent. Fast forward 4 more years. My daughter is now 13, an official teenager, and remember, she was a very emotionally mature. As a single dad, I struggled. I wasn't trying to be a dad, I was trying to be their buddy. It worked in the beginning, but as time wore on, the buddy routine grew old, and my emotionally mature teenager daughter wasn't having it. She wanted and needed structure. She decided to move in full time with her mom. I was crushed. How dare she do that? Ephesians 6:4. Fathers, do not exasperate your children. Instead, bring them up in the training and instruction of the Lord. Have you ever felt like this? I had to look at myself honestly to determine what had done to exasperate her. I hadn't provided the structure, security, love she needed. There was no discipline, structure, education, or security in my home. I was the cool dad. I let the kids do whatever they wanted within reason. It's okay to be the cool dad, but at the same time, we also need to provide guidance for our children, and most importantly, be present in their lives, especially as teenagers. I got remarried when my son was 9. I thought the 3 of us were getting along well, but my wife struggled with my parenting. Remember, I'm the cool dad. I coached his baseball teams, his basketball teams. He had me wrapped around his finger. When he turned 12, he decided to live during the summer with my wife and I. Thinking he may want to move in permanently, I was very hopeful that my son would decide he'd like to live with us full time. At summer's end, my wife and I met with the ex and her husband, and after a long discussion, my son decided he wanted to change living arrangements. He would come over every Thursday and every other weekend. Again, I was shocked. What had I done or not done? Have you ever felt that way like me? Have you had no idea, like you had no idea what to do to raise children? They say hindsight is 20/20. Looking back on it, I was more worried that the kids would like me and didn't do much parenting. Make promises you'll keep, and at the same time, do not overpromise. Teenagers are always watching for us to mess up. Provide structure and stability so they know what the rules are, and then back those rules up. Provide discipline. This is Still, one of the hardest things for me. Think of it this way. You mess up at work and your boss tells you about it. We learn from our mistakes. Teenagers need to know they will be held accountable. Lastly, and most importantly, love those kids. Hug them, kiss them, hold them tight. They may not appreciate it now, but later on, it will be one of their most prized memories. Lastly, dads, don't beat yourself up if you make a mistake. Your kids will let you know. Learn and move on. Jesus was the only perfect man I know. Thank you for listening today.